Okay, everybody. So just to continue and hopefully finish this off, Rav Sharaga's final psak was that if the guy chops the other guy's aliyah, Shimon goes ahead and takes Ruvain's aliyah that he had purchased in auction or that he had bid upon and won the bid in auction for the aliyah. So Ruvain is out of his aliyah. He cannot assess Shimon for the cost or for any kind of penalty, because that's just not what our Bate Din do today. Um, and uh, and so even if you could argue that since Shimon paid for the aliyah, it's considered to be his exclusive mitzvah, and we still paskin like the Shulchan Aruch said that bisman hazeh lo govim asara zuhuvim verakim tafas lo motziyim yimenu. But nowadays we don't assess people in Beis Din for penalties in general, and certainly not for the 10 gold pieces. The second person, however, in his last line, has violated a number of Torah violations by chopping someone else's aliyah. This contributes to machlokes. It contributes, what he's done has been a humiliating experience, and he has to ask him forgiveness and get his mechila. So in the Makor Baruch at the end, he says, "Uve'inyan zeh siper lanu Rabbeinu Hagon Hamachaber Shlita Maaseh Sheba Elav LeBeis Din ve'echad shekana aliyat chazak b'sikum gadol." Now we have to also remember, by the Sfardim, buying kibudim in the shul is a really big thing. Like they go for a lot of money. They don't need to bring in Stephen Harper for their fundraisers. They just have to sell psicha for neila or something like that, and that gets them their budget for the whole year.
I used to talk to people from my game, other shuls, from some shuls,
Yeah.
and the deals would sell for $50,000-$60,000. Like they raised them. Especially Nilo, CFO for Nilo.
Yeah, yeah. So there was a story about a guy. He related a story, Rav Sharaga, about a guy who bought the Aliyat Chazak, which is when you finish one of the Svarim of the Chumash. B'sikum gadol, he bid a lot of money. Afal pi shahaya sham zakein, shahaya min hago kfar harbe shanim liknoto. And there was an elderly man in the shul, and it was his tradition to purchase the Chazak Aliyah. But this guy, younger fellow, he purchased it. And the Gabbai was a friend of this elderly man. Omar b'tchilat hakriya ein kan koyin ya'amod. And he said at the beginning of calling up, there's no kohen here. Ya'amod, the Omar et shemo shel misha kanet aliyat chazak, v'haya muchrach la'alot. And he said the name of the person who had purchased the aliyah, and he had to go up. Ubesofo shel davar kevin shel arishon kibed et hazakein la'alot la'aliyat chazak. So it's really quite unusual. What the Gabbai did was he said, we have no kohen. So he calls him up for the first aliyah instead of giving him the chazak aliyah that he had purchased, which would have been shvi or acharon. Okay, and so he goes up for the first aliyah, and then since he already got his aliyah, the Gabbai gave the elderly man the chazak aliyah. Kevin shechashav shelo yachol la'alot pa'amayim, because he thought you can't call up the person 2 times for the same Torah reading. V'hinei achar kach hagabayim bikshu shehu yishalim al hasikum sheitchayev la'aliyah. And then the Gaboyim sent him a bill for his aliyah, for what he had bid for the chazak. Va'amar she'eno chayev kevin shehazakein olav v'huzeh shechayev l'shalim. And they said, don't send the bill to me, send it to the old man. He's the one you gave the aliyah to. V'tavu oto hagaboyim beBeis Din. So they took him to Beis Din. V'Rabbeinu shlita pasak de be'emes hu chayav ki hayalo la'alot gam la'aliyat chazak. And so Rav Sharaga paskined that he is liable to pay because he should have gone up a second time to get his chazak aliyah. Ilo matzanu sha'aser la'alot l'Torah pamayim. there's no such thing as any prohibition of getting a second aliyah. In other words, if they call you up for shlishi, and then but you had purchased maftir, you're still allowed to go up for the maftir aliyah. So there's no such prohibition.
But you think there's the old man when he gets called up for a shvi?
The thing is that but he paid for it. He bid
I
for it.
understand that, but he calls Yamod to the old man, and then he comes upset of him. Does that embarrass the?
No, so apparently the story here is that he thought that he couldn't get the Shavi'i Aliyah, and so he just sort of basically said, well, you already gave me the first Aliyah, I guess I can't get the Chazak Aliyah. So it could be he refused it, or he told the Gabbai, well, now that you gave me this Aliyah, I guess I'm not coming up for Chazak. V'gam hazakin lo haya chayav l'shalim lo asar zehuvin, kevin shelo chatav es hamitzvah ela shehitzir ela shehatzair kibedo v'ihu da'afsid anafshe. And the elderly man doesn't have to pay for the chazak aliyah and he doesn't have to pay the 10 gold pieces. It's not that the old man took away his mitzvah, because if he would have put up a fuss and said, I want chazak, they would have had to give it to him because he paid for it. But he basically recused himself from any more aliyahs because he assumed that once I got the first aliyah, I can't get any more aliyot. So it's your loss, Rav Sharaga said. Who told you such a halacha that just because you got the first aliyah, you can't take the last aliyah? V'afal pi shekasav Rabbeinu Hagon hamachaber shlita le'el debainin sheyupiv v'libo shavin. Now wait a minute. Don't we have a principle that we just learned yesterday? That when a person makes a pledge, and it's clearly only a pledge that's predicated on him getting a certain honor, if he ends up not getting the honor, then you look at what he was intending. And since he never got the intended honor, he shouldn't have to make good on the pledge. And therefore, when he pledged, a certain amount for the aliyah, it was only under the assumption that he was going to get the aliyah, not that the old man was going to get the aliyah. So why did Rav Sharaga make him pay? He shouldn't have to pay. But he says, Tzarech Lomer dekan shiny. Kevin shaya piva libo shavim bishat haneder. V'achar kach lo ola laTorah machmat ta'uto. He says the answer you'd have to say is that he really did intend to pay the money in order to get the aliyah. And when he recused himself and said, I guess you'll have to give it to the old man, it was his choice, because he just didn't know the halacha. And therefore, his conclusion is that he caused himself to lose out on the kibbud. In other words, what happens if I bid on an aliyah, I win the bid, and then I see that there's another guy in the shul who's like totally broigus now. He's totally broigus. And you can imagine that, right? A Simchas Torah auction gone bad because
I don't have to imagine.
yeah, because a guy bid and he won the bid, but now he sees this guy who is so sour, so dour, because he works so hard every year to get this aliyah, and he loves to sing a certain nusach, and he's been doing it for years, and these guys outbid him, and now he's like, ooh. So they figure, you know what? Let's give it to the guy. It's not worth the repercussions that we're going to be hearing over the course of the year, and just to give you, just some idea of what's going on here. This is Simchas Torah, right? So Simchas Torah is like literally days after Yom Kippur, literally days after Yom Kippur, and already you're dealing with these petty machloikes, human problems that we shouldn't ever have to worry about, because people should act like people and they should act like grown-ups. But you know what happens? Things devolve, things deteriorate very, very quickly after Yom Kippur. And so unfortunately, these kinds of things happen, which is why, just you're best off just uh, stay away from any this kind of stuff. But you see what happens. You see human behavior emerging when it comes to issues like kavod. It's what I spoke about on Shabbos Shuvah, like this ambition for swallowing up other people. Okay. So in any event, so in that particular case, Rav Sharaga Paskin, the guy had to pay because who told you that you had to give up your aliyah for the old man? You assumed as such, so you did it, but that really wasn't the halacha. Okay. Let's just see what the next tshuva is going to be about. Advakat modaot b'cheder madregot u'virshut harabim. Sticking up ads using what?
Was talking about a situation happening with Beth Jacob one of the first years we were here, and it was a simple story. So we're standing there, and these two guys are bidding over one of the, I think it's one of the bids, and going up and up and up and up and up like this, and all of a sudden one of the guys turns around and says, "How can you let him bid over the top of me? He hasn't paid for last year."
Ooh.
Oh. So yeah, it happened.
And that does happen also. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, the next shaila is going to be about, is it permissible to stick up ads posting bills in public areas? What are the halachic things? Rav Sharaga did point out that that's a form of gezel if you do it in a private place. What about putting up ads and signs and posters, stickers in public places? So we'll learn about this Mirz Hashem tomorrow.